I call the Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
Mr Speaker, I rise also to support Environment Canterbury Democracy Restoration Amendment Bill, originally in the name of my former colleague Brendan Burns, who worked tirelessly on behalf of his constituents in Christchurch Central at the time, but also on behalf of the people of Canterbury with respect to water issues. And water issues are of course fundamental to Environment Canterbury's role. It's not the only role that Environment Canterbury undertakes, but it is an extremely important role, as we have heard in this House already. Now, I want to focus initially on the report that led to the removal of democratic governance in the region. And I think it is important for us to realise that the government actually intervened in the local government processes. They intervened in the process in order to remove a layer of democratic governance that existed in our region. And that the justification for such a strong intervention and such an undermining of something that is absolutely fundamental in terms of our commitment to civil and political rights in this country was based on a report. And that report had two distinct parts to it. One part was clearly a political report. It was politically motivated, it was politically inspired, and it was designed to give an answer to a problem that had already had a resolution decided by the government of the day. So the government had decided what it wanted, and this part of the report was written specifically to achieve that desired outcome, which was the removal of the democratically elected councillors of Environment Canterbury. The second report, the objective part of the report, did acknowledge that there had been problems in the past and identified what those problems were, but that part of the report made it absolutely crystal clear that all of those issues were being addressed, every single one of them, and they were being addressed in such a way that would give any government confidence that all they had to do was to allow time for those particular measures that had been put in place to reach fruition, and they would achieve the objective that they said they had set in reviewing the operation of Environment Canterbury. And that, to me, was what was fundamentally wrong with the whole process, was that the government actually designed a report with a political input and an objective input, and ignored the objective input and just chose the political input, which actually gave them the result that they had already decided. They had already made up their mind that the Environment Canterbury elected representatives would go. They would be replaced by commissioners, and those commissioners were given a task which was actually made much easier as a result of the work that had been going on to resolve some of the problems of the past. And they were problems of the past. They were certainly being addressed at the time. Mr Speaker, there was no basis for the sacking of ECAN when the national government of the day undertook that task, and there is no justification today for the government to vote against this bill. Christchurch is crying out for the restoration of local democracy. And what we have heard today is a minister of the government, of this government, stand in this House and not deny, which is essentially confirming the fact that the next layer of democratically elected governance in our city is also on the chopping block, but they're not going to go as far as they've gone with ECAN. They're just going to strip it of its core function, and that's the Christchurch City Council will lose all of its planning functions for the CBD as part of the recovery of our city. And I am outraged by this government going down that track, and to find that the government here tonight will not vote for the restoration of democracy in the region and we know that the government is planning to remove that vestige of democracy that remains in Christchurch through the core function of the Christchurch City Council.
Sorry,
it is an outrage.
Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.